Hello, buddy. Senior engineer, MBA, and investor. And in today's video, I want to talk about why a lot of people do not believe that genomics, genome editing companies cannot be multi baggers, why they are not a potential 10x within years. I want to cover this topic. I want to dive deep into it. And I want to allow us to sort of get our brains juicing here and sort of brainstorm a little bit as to what we could do to improve and to change that narrative, right? And before we do that, guys, before we dive into today's topic, do like this video, smash that like button, destroy that like button, guys. Really does help the channel. If you haven't subscribed, what are you waiting for? We are almost at 1,000 subscribers. We are so close, guys. Thank you so much for support. The support of this community has just been amazing, and that is exactly why I want to serve you guys. I want to help you guys for free, give you guys information for free, all this investment knowledge, general knowledge, philosophy, whatever we want to talk about in the channels to help you, your friends, your family, and your fellow investors. So thank you very much for the support, guys. And hit that notification bell. A lot of you have been hitting it. Thank you so much for that. Our videos get to you faster. So I was reading this article really quickly before we dive into today's video as well. I just, since we're on this, this is an article on the New Yorker. It was recommended by one of our viewers, and I don't recall at what context this was, but it's basically an article talking about what if you could do it all over, right? So it's an opinion piece by this author. It's like late 2020. Has nothing to do with genomics, obviously, but it could be something to do with genomics. Um, because the article basically talks about, like I said, it's an op-ed, so it talks a lot about what if you could live another type of life that you actually wanted to live. And I think this is a question we always ask. Again, I don't want to go too much in philosophy. I don't want to go too philosophical on you guys. I'm definitely not a philosopher king in this channel, but I highly recommend you guys to read this article. I haven't really gone through most of it. I just started reading it, and I just think it's interesting that throughout our lives, we live through a certain sequence. But what's really crazy is that we're sort of born in this environment where we're sort of put like just like in a video game, right? We're just randomly put into a space depending on the probability rates of where you will be born, what is your culture, what is your genetics, and so on. And then we have to deal with that and then navigate in this competitive and complex world, right? And it's just amazing as if you try to get your brain juicing as to what would happen if you were able to live in another type of life that you always wanted to live, for example, right? So for example, if you wanted to become very, very wealthy, what would it actually be? What would the world look like? Or if you were wealthy and you wanted to be a little bit more low key, what would that look like? So I think it's just interesting. I think this article, like I said, I have to go over it, and there's so much juice here, so much gems, so many gems here. And it was recommended by one of our viewers, and you guys know I always read your articles. Always read your replies, your comments, your feedback, your input. I truly value them because we are a community, right? It's not just me. It's not just this video. It's not just this webcam. There's the whole community. This is what drives this channel forward, right? So thank you so much for the recommendation to whoever did it. I honestly forgot who recommended this article. So I wanted to cover this, I guess, this tweet here, but this is just one of many, many tweets, right? And this tweet basically says, this guy says, what are already multi-baggers and future multi-baggers, right? So in public markets, in the stock market, when we talk about multi-baggers, we're talking about 10x companies, 5x companies, 20x companies, 100x companies, meaning that the current valuation may potentially go 10x from today. And that means, for example, if you invested $10,000 into one company and that company goes 10x within the next year, then you essentially pretty much made 100,000 in terms of your principal compared to your original principal, and that means you've 10x your portfolio, right? And a lot of investors, a lot of people in the public markets love to use that term because it really references to exponential growth, and ultimately no one really wants to make 5 to 10% growth every year. You could easily get that in different index fund, even in mutual funds. Unfortunately, you can't do that in savings account, legacy savings account, and bankings, but at least you could do that in index funds. But ultimately, what current investors, retail investors, newer generations are looking at is for 50% growth every year at least. And if you could get 10x in a year, that's like 1,000% return. That's just amazing, guys. So, what I wanted to talk about here is a lot of people throw these fancy names, right? So, Square, obviously, we've covered this company. Tesla, obviously, we've covered this company. And then there's other cute companies too, like Unity, Shopify, Roku, and many of them, Palantir, right, which we've actually covered in this channel. We strongly believe they will be a 10x company, and that puts them over $500 billion market cap. And I actually believe this. Some of these companies will 10x. Like I'm not saying they won't. Like Tesla, to me, they're still early. Square is way too early. They're worth like in the mid or early 100 billions. I actually think they can reach a trillion as well, just like Palantir. Tesla, I can strongly see a position where Tesla, not just 10x, but 5x within the next few years, 10x maybe by 2030, like something along those lines, which is still crazy, guys. Like, if you compare that with legacy investments and savings account, even in index funds, you're still getting a huge return, right? So, I see some scenario where some of these companies are worth that much. What I want to present to you guys is a lot of people will never include genomics company, biotech companies, genome editing companies, CRISPR companies. And what's ironic in that is a lot of people will say, well, I don't invest in what I don't understand. Okay. And I actually agree with this. I actually understand where this is coming from. I'm not pushing back on that sentence, right? I do not invest what I don't understand. But let me present another type of scenario, right? So maybe this is where I want to get our brains juicing here. Again, I don't have the solution, I don't have the answer. I don't think you do. I think this is a personal decision, risk tolerance, where you are in your life, what you're looking for, what are your, available funds and so on. There's so many other questions than just deciding which company or verticals to invest in, right? But here's the thing, do you actually understand Tesla's battery technology? Like, do you actually understand it? Like, I'm an electrical engineer. I studied in this, and I can tell you off the bat, this is a very complex topic, right? Just batteries, right? We didn't even talk about energy. We didn't talk about vehicles. Like, how is the powertrain of Tesla is structured, how the batteries are structured, the 4680 cells. Like, do you actually understand that, or are you just looking at tweets or Reddit posts or on YouTube videos? You're looking at pretty nice statistics or graph. Do you actually understand Square's business, right? Do you understand the back end, financial system that they're running on, right? The Cash App ecosystem. Do you understand the platform they're running on Android versus iOS, right? Do you understand the different SDKs they're running on, right? Do you actually understand Roku's business model, not just business model in terms of like revenues and so on, but what they actually plan on doing with their code and with the software running behind it, right? So again, I could go, I could just go on with even Palantir, right? And the reality is, I think most people that invest in these companies, most, I'm not saying all of them, right? But I would comfortably say over 90% of retail investors, big institution, especially big institution investors, don't actually understand the fundamental technologies. They don't have absolutely no idea about these tech companies, especially internet companies, technology like Facebook, Google, what they're running in the back end, all the APIs, everything they're doing in the back end with even just Google, just Chrome, how complex it is, right? They hold conferences every single year just on Chrome, right? They have a YouTube channel with like 1 million subscribers just on Chrome, the browser Chrome, guys, for developers. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because you make things the complex the way you want to make it, right? And if you're with the mentality that genomics companies, biotech companies, CRISPR companies, genome editing companies are so complex, therefore I will not invest in it, then that's pretty much the conclusion of it. But do you actually need to understand CRISPR, the way it works, like specifically the way it works, and why first generation is going to be competing against the second generation of CRISPR versus the third generation of CRISPR from Prime Medicine, for example? Do you really need to know to that extent? I think you should know the high level details. I definitely think there's a place and time for it. I also think that the more you know, the better it is. There's absolutely nothing to lose from that. But I think preventing you from investing in those verticals, whether that's biotech, genomics, because you don't necessarily understand everything in genome editing, in CRISPR, for example, in genetics, in genome type, in biology, I think you're missing out. I think you're missing out on potential returns. I think you are risking yourself from a vertical that is about to do a 10x, 100x within years. We've already talked about how the total addressable market for genomics is the biggest, right? The second biggest is maybe space, but even then, genomics, let's just think about moving atoms to atoms, right? That's what the CEO of Kelly mentioned, right? The CEO of Ginkgo Bioworks. He mentioned that in the tech world, in the internet world, we basically went from moving information to information. But biology, synthetic biology, CRISPR, genome editing, biotech, genomics, all these companies are moving atoms to atoms, right? What happens when you can actually do that, right? What happens when you can eradicate diseases? What happens if you can improve your lifespan, improve your health, improve your lifestyle, improve your body, improve your physique, improve your genetics disposition that you were originally sort of thrown into because of probability race, something we sort of talked about from that New Yorker's article, has nothing, like I said, had something to do with genomics. That's why I'm squeezing that in from today's article that we just talked about really quickly earlier in this video. And my point here is that there's so much total addressable market in genomics and biotech. To me, this is an easy 10x, easy 100x within the next few years. CTX001 is the next catalyst. FDA approval for that or for any program in the CRISPR companies will just blow up the whole space. We've already seen things go up with NTLA 2001 in vivo data for phase one, the first human clinical data for phase one, and that just blew up, right? All these companies went 10x, 20x, 30x in a single day. And I think we are so early in this race, like guys, like, and my point again, I guess what I want to maybe conclude this video with is that I don't necessarily think you need to understand the whole technology behind, for example, CRISPR companies or even these diagnostic companies, these sequence mapping companies. Do you really need to understand Zephyr's system um, from BNGO, right? Do you actually need to understand every single thing they're doing, right? And I think this is unfair that this is like a double standard we put into these high tech genomics biotech companies. Like, oh, this is way too complicated. Genetics is way too complicated. It's way too risky for me. I'm just gonna look at these companies that a lot of people are talking about, like Tesla, Roku, Square, Shopify, Palantir, and those are all amazing companies. Like SoFi, these are all amazing companies. I think they have all potential to 10x easily within the next few years. But I think by not including genomics company, biotech companies, I think that is risking yourself and closing yourself from an industry that is about to blow up. It has been blowing up. If you just look at any of these companies' past 2 3 years returns, has been astronomical. New investors are jumping into this, new retail investors and big institutions. On honestly, besides, I think it's Blackstone or BlackRock and Ark Invest, no one has really dipped their toes into it. So highly advise you guys to look into it further. Again, not financial advice. You have to do your own research. And the only thing I will end this video with is that I think it all starts with education awareness. Like these types of videos, they help investors. I think they truly do help investors sort of position themselves. We've seen a lot of people that were really, really bullish into high tech companies like Palantir, Tesla, Square, and so on. And they've been starting to look into biotech companies, specifically CRISPR companies, for example, or even Ginkgo Bioworks. They're de-SPACing. They're going through the SPAC merger with SRNG, the stock ticker symbol, the SPAC. So again, it starts with education, starts with spreading information, starts with conversation, starts with videos, information, threads on Twitter, posts on Reddit. And my challenge to you guys is just to keep on working on that, right? And it's not necessarily because you have incentives behind. I know many of you are deep invested with some of these companies, but ultimately, if you strongly believe in this vertical, if you strongly believe in this opportunity, then I think you as a human, you have a duty to help others out, right? And I think there's many people out there. I saw this viewer leave a comment on a few weeks video, past videos when Caribou Biosciences went 100 plus percent in a single week. And I got this comment saying, you've changed, my family life, just basically made like 25K. And that's a huge chunk of change, guys. This is like a down payment for a house. You could pay a couple of trips. You can even pay a car. I think this is a life-changing event, and I think my goal here is not just to help that individual or just a few. It's to help as many as I can, right? And of course, if I can benefit from that, then so be it. But ultimately, I want to serve you guys, and I ultimately want you guys to have that same mentality, right? It starts with education. It starts with spreading information. So that's all I wanted to say to you guys. If you have any comments, feedback, input, why you think the genomics companies are not included in these 10x, 100x convos, leave me comments below. Let me know why you think, YouTube there's not a lot of YouTubers covering this space. There's not a lot of articles covering this space. This Reddit, you just look at stocks or subreddit stocks or investing. Barely anybody's talking about biotech. What do you guys think? Why is that the reason? I want to know about what you guys think and give me some potential company names that you think could be 10x, 100x potentially. So thank you very much for watching. If you watched it this long, it's been just over 16 minutes here. Hopefully you guys are having a beautiful Sunday. We're back on schedule here. Was on road for the past few days. I even made a video 2 days ago in the hotel room. That was quite interesting. Watch that video if you're curious about, you know, genomics and companies being potentially overvalued in this market. Are the public markets a bubble? And I think I got good reception so far from that video. So thanks for watching, guys. We're back on schedule. We'll be making these videos. Thank you very much. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and we'll see each other's maybe tomorrow on a beautiful Monday and start the week very, very inspired and very, very motivated. Thanks for watching.